Well, Danielle switching to my travel class.
Yay!
Yeah, so
Should be in your group.
yeah.
Yay!
So basically, well.
Hey, everybody. We're going to get started in just a minute or so here. We're going to wait for folks to continue to join. But welcome to the Harris Volunteer Call.
All right, so I decided to sign up for the Harris updates and volunteer list, and this is the training for it. So I'm just kind of going with the flow. Wanted to go to a rally, but that's probably not going to happen. Not that many people in here.
Hey, everyone. For those just joining, we're going to wait a couple of more minutes to get as many people in as possible. But welcome, everyone, and thanks for being here.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me, Maggie?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So for those of you who are here, my name is James Fay. I am a Deputy Organizing Director for Florida for the Harris Walz campaign.
Got muted.
And again, we're excited to have you all here for this training. A couple of things at the top that I'll repeat in a minute for folks that are just joining. We want this to be interactive, but we've had a wonderfully overwhelming response to these trainings with lots and lots of people at least 50 people in every session. And so we would ask that you mute your line and direct questions that you have in the chat until the Q&A portion at the end of this call, when we'll try to get everybody an opportunity to have their questions answered.
Hi, can you hear me, Caroline?
Yes, we can hear you just fine. Okay, so we're at about 2 minutes after now. So some other people will continue to trickle in, but we're just going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, can folks see this?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so for everyone, once again, my name is James Fay. I'm a Deputy Organizing Director here in Florida with the Harris Walz campaign. We've had wonderful responses to these volunteer trainings, so welcome. We're happy to have you all here. We've got almost 50 people on the line, so we would ask that everyone mute your mic, and if you would be so kind as to direct your questions to the chat. We want this to be interactive, and there'll be many portions of the program today when we're going to ask you directly to put your responses in the chat. As I said, there's lots and lots of wonderful folks just like you, wonderful Floridians from across the state, and we're going to showcase that as much as we can. So for now, we're just going to go ahead and launch into action with a short video to get you all fired up.
Okay.
In this election, we each face a question. What kind of country do we want to live in? There are some people who think we should be a country of chaos, of fear, of hate. But us, we choose something different. We choose freedom. Freedom not just to get by, but get ahead. The freedom to be safe from gun violence. The freedom to make decisions about your own body. We choose a future where no child lives in poverty, where we can all afford health care, where no one is above the law. We believe in the promise of America, and we're ready to fight for it. because when we fight, we win. So join us. Go to KamalaHarris.com and let's get to work. I'm gonna keep on running because a winner don't quit on themselves.
Okay. Every time I see that video, I still feel fired up as well. So let's see here. We're still admitting some more people. Okay. I think we've got everybody here now. There we go. There we go. Okay. What happened to the video? That is strange. Okay, here we go. We're just going to go from here. So let's talk about the agenda for today. We're going to get to know our candidates briefly. I know many of you have watched the DNC, may have watched their media appearances, but I think it's important that we highlight some of the most key messages that we really want everyone to convey. The second thing is we're going to learn about the strategy for our campaign here in Florida. And then lastly, we're going to end this with really taking action, how all of you can get more involved. So first and foremost, we'd like you to introduce yourselves, right? Type your name and where you're from into the chat. Right down there in the bottom of your Zoom screen. So click the chat and introduce yourself, and we'll get a sense of who else is here with us. Mitch from Naples. Nice to meet you, Mitch. Sam from St. Pete. Margaret. Dennis from Miami. Tampa. Ruth in Tampa. Gosh, lots and lots of places. Pembroke Pines, Oviedo. Cape Coral, Lake Worth. Jacksonville. Palm Beach, Gardens, I think what you meant to say. Zephyr Hills, Boca, St. Pete, Wellington, all over. So as you can see, it's a pretty big, diverse group of folks here. And that certainly mirrors what we've seen with a lot of other events that we've held like this. Every day, we're getting a huge and enthusiastic group of people from across the state. And, we're here because of our candidates. That's why you're all here and you want to get more involved. So we're going to very briefly go through some very fast videos of Vice President Harris's story and then Governor Walz.
One thing Kamala Harris has always been: fearless. As a prosecutor, she put murderers and abusers behind bars. As California's Attorney General, she went after the big banks and won $20 billion for homeowners. And as vice president, she took on the big drug companies to cap the cost of insulin for seniors. Because Kamala Harris has always known who she represents.
This campaign is about who we fight for. We believe in a future where every person has the opportunity not just to get by, but to get ahead. Where every senior can retire with dignity. But Donald Trump wants to take our country backward, to give tax breaks to billionaires and big corporations and end the Affordable Care Act. But we are not going back. I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Okay. So as many of you already know, our candidate, Vice President Harris, has been a trailblazing leader on issues that expand economic opportunity, our freedoms and our rights in this country, right? She's leading the fight for reproductive freedom, an incredibly important issue to many people, I'm sure, here on this call. She's leading on bringing down costs for American families, things like capping insulin at $35 a month. She pushed for the first bipartisan gun safety law in decades, which continues sadly to be very relevant. But we know that there is more to do on this important issue. She's led on clean water, manufacturing, and climate action alongside President Biden, and she's represented our country all around the world, to strengthen our national security. But as important as those policy positions are, it's really her values that attract so many voters and probably so many of you. And it comes from, where she came from, right? So what we like to say is that Vice President Harris is fighting for the middle class, right? She and her sister grew up in a working class neighborhood, raised by a working class mom, and in a community that always looked out for each other. She had a summer job at McDonald's, which I'm sure you heard about if you watched the DNC. And she knows what it's like to be a regular middle class person and to look out for those families. Another key theme that we really want to emphasize is that throughout her career, she knows how to stand up to bullies like Donald Trump, right? As district attorney in San Francisco, she specialized in prosecuting child sexual assault cases. As attorney general in California, she won huge verdicts and took on the big banks. And as a US Senator, championing opportunity, and as, of course, Vice President, you already know, of the Biden-Harris administration, accomplishing a great deal despite a divided Congress. And hopefully soon, she's going to take that same mentality to being the next president of the United States. And so now on to Governor Walz.
Sometimes life is as much about the lessons you learn as the lessons you teach. When I grew up, community was a way of life. My high school class was 24 people. I was related to half of them. I learned to be generous towards my neighbors, compromise without compromising my values, and work for the common good. My dad was in the Army, and with his encouragement, I joined the Army National Guard when I was 17. I served for 24 years. I used my GI benefits to go to college and become a public school teacher. I coached football and taught social studies for 20 years. And I tried to teach my students what small town Nebraska taught me: respect, compromise, service to country. And so when I went into government, that's what I carried with me. I worked with Republicans to pass an infrastructure bill, cut taxes for working families, signed paid leave into law. I codified abortion rights after Roe got overturned. Because I go to work for the common good. But enough about me. Let's talk about you. Because that's what this election is about. It's about your future. It's about your family. And Vice President Harris knows that. She too grew up in a middle class family. She too goes to work every day, making sure families can not just get by, but get ahead. We believe in the promise of America, in those values I learned in Nebraska, and we're ready to fight for them. Because as Kamala Harris says, when we fight, we win.
Awesome. So I don't know about all of you, but yeah, I'm pretty plugged into politics, and I did even not really know who Tim Walz was until about a month and a half ago. I knew he was the governor of Minnesota, and that was about it. And we have all gotten to know what an extraordinary man and leader he has been, but also just what a compassionate person and relatable person he is. And that's why, Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Walz are moving our country forward and fighting for working families, because it's who they are. It's in their background. So he was born in Nebraska, about as Midwestern as you can get, as I'm sure you've all seen. Command Sergeant Major in the Army National Guard for 24 years. A high school social studies teacher, as the video talked about. And then a U.S. congressman to be able to do more with that platform to advocate for working families. And then eventually as Minnesota governor, he passed an incredible amount of impactful legislation despite very slim majorities, right? Making it a business-friendly state and also finding ways to help lower costs for regular families and protect our freedoms. But again, it is those values, not necessarily policy positions, that people really resonate with, right? So in selecting Governor Walz, Vice President Harris has chosen someone who shares her vision and values. As I said, lifelong Midwesterner, fighting for the middle class. It's just who he is, right? That resonates immediately, that authenticity, with everyone. Standing up for our freedoms. Ensuring that we're focusing on building out our states and our communities to be as successful and as much opportunity as possible, in addition to focusing on safety. So I want you to share in the chat now what values brought you here today. Like, what are you most passionate about in one sentence or less, right? What are you fighting for? Just go ahead and take a moment to share your responses in the chat, and then we'll talk about it. Women's healthcare, reproductive rights. Yes, indeed. Kathy and Samantha and Savannah. Mitch wants to have lower gas prices again. Okay. Future of the nation. Indeed. Yes. 2 daughters, and I'm afraid for their future. Yes. Middle class to get ahead. Gun violence, decency in the office. I agree, Dennis. Women's rights from Haley, the right to get an education. Gun reform, yeah. Saving democracy. I appreciate that, Deanne. More reproductive rights, gun violence. Pathways to Citizenship from Margaret. I like that one too. So as you can see, there's some themes here, right, of stuff that continues to come up, but also definitely a variety of different things that bring us together. And so how are we going to get there? Let's talk a little bit about our strategy for being able to make that happen. So everywhere that Vice President Harris goes, enthusiasm follows. I'm sure you've all felt how this is different. That's why you're here today, right? Democrats are incredibly energized across the country, disciplined and on message. It's really refreshing to see, for once, it feels like. And but at the same time, there is no question that this race is going to be close. As Vice President Harris has said, we're the underdogs, and we have to really internalize that. And that's especially true here in Florida. But we're going to win this race by organizing our communities one voter at a time with your help. Only with your help, right? So how are we going to do that? Who are we reaching out to? Who are our targets? This part's really important. It's the winning coalition that delivered the 2020 election for Biden and Harris. It's expansion voters who did not vote in 2020 but have voted for Democrats since then, mostly in the 2022 midterms. And then it's also undecided voters. And this is really key for Florida, right? It's undecided voters. There's no way that we're going to be able to win Florida without reaching out to moderates in the middle, and that's why we need all of you. And we've already gotten off to a great start. Across the country, there's been millions of calls and texts to target voters in key states. We all watched the DNC, or most of us did, and debate watch parties for President Biden before the switch. And we've already started to put together all of you, which is the best team that a campaign could ask for. And we're building a huge campaign here in Florida, right? You might have seen in the press, we've had 40,000 new volunteers signed up just after the switch to Vice President Harris. 500,000 calls, like 500,000 calls to our target voters last month, and over 20,000 active volunteers. But you might say, like, this is a pretty sizable gap here, you know, the 20,000 to 40,000 people that are interested to get involved, right? That's where we need all of your help. You know, we organizers cannot do it alone. We need to build an army together. So how are we going to do that, right? Well, we're focused on maintaining multiple pathways to 270 electoral votes to get us over the threshold in the Electoral College in all the battlegrounds that matter most. And as we keep going here, right, like, your work right now and between now and the election is the only way we're going to get there. So as you can see, there's lots and lots and lots. Here, let me make this a little bit bigger for you. Okay, as you can see, there are lots and lots of swing states here in this brown color, but obviously Florida is the biggest one by a comfortable margin, right? And that's going to be really important. Together, we're building this nationwide movement to elect Democrats up and down the ballot, but the path to the White House runs through Florida, right? There is no pathway for former President Trump without winning Florida. So if we win here, it's over for him. And that's what we're going to try and do. So that's where you come in. We need our message to reach as many voters as possible. And you are our best messengers, right? Fellow Floridians talking to fellow Floridians is the most effective way to bring on moderates and undecideds. There's only 60 days left until the election, right? It's an incredibly short period of time, and that's all the more reason why we need all of you here today. So I want you to, for a moment, to imagine if every person on this call spent 1 hour phone banking, how many voters do you think we could reach? Just go ahead and type your answer down in the chat. How many people do you think, theoretically, you know, just take a reasonable guess. How many people could we reach in 1 hour?
Oh, oops.
Dennis says 30. Katrina says 500. Lana, 2,500. I like that. Thousands. Evelyn's getting it. She's got it. Kathy, 1,000. Savannah, 1,000. Sabrina, thousands, plural. I like it. Yes, these are all good guesses. So on average, one person using our technology tool in 1 hour can make 500 attempted phone calls. 500 attempts. That means you're going to have multiple meaningful conversations with voters per hour. So we're going to do some calculator math here, right? There's 49 people currently on this call, right? Times 500, that's 24,500 attempted phone calls, right? Out of that, we are going to get thousands of people that pick up the phone. At the very least, we're going to get hundreds of people. And we're going to have real conversations with hundreds of people. And that's incredibly important to making sure that we can find who our real audience is. So I'm going to go back one here. Imagine now if every person on this call signed up to Canvas every Saturday from now until the election. How many voters do you think we could persuade, right? By working together, we can hit thousands of doors, right? And we can talk to hundreds of voters. Response rates are obviously much higher on doors, right? As many as a quarter to a third of people are going to answer the door on a weekend. And we can really talk to a lot of middle of the road voters. That's who we're going after right now. And so now I want you to imagine that you wake up on November 6th to the news that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz were elected as president and vice president of the United States. I want you to just think about that for a moment, right? Really try to feel what that would feel like for you. Imagine it. Type your answer in the chat. How would it make you feel? Caroline says relief. I agree. A secure future for our country. Yes. Kathy says relief. Morissette says elated. Hope for democracy. Joy. Beaming with pride. Joy and hope. Yes. Optimistic. I agree. So much hope. See, we all have these similar feelings, and it's important that we hang on to that because voter contact is hard, you know? We're not just going to go talk to easy Democrats. By talking to ourselves, we're not going to expand the electorate in order to win. We have to go talk to the persuadable middle. Some of them are going to vote for Kamala Harris. Some of them are going to vote for President Trump. Some of them are not going to vote at all. But it's so important that we remember this feeling when it gets hard, when we don't want to do another volunteer shift, when we've been walking for a while in the hot Florida sun or in the rain. We remember why we're doing it. We remember the way that it'll make us feel. Because again, it's simple for us. If we win Florida, that's the end. He has no pathway. So again, think about it, feel it, and use that as motivation for the weeks to come. So let's get to work. Sign up to Phone Bank and Canvas with us. We're going to ask 3 things. That's the first thing. First thing. Sign up to Phone Bank and Canvas with us. The second thing is to join us on Reach, which is an app on your phone that you can use to organize your friends and family and your neighbors through your own social media networks that already exist. It's very easy to use. The third thing we're asking you to do is invite 5 friends to do the same. Sign them up for this phone call. Sign them up for canvassing shifts. Sign them up for phone banking shifts. There are a number of different opportunities. Haley says, I go to UCF. Are there any opportunities? Yes, one of our college campuses are always a thing. My colleague is going to respond to you in the chat momentarily. So again, 1, signing up to Phone Bank and Canvas. 2, joining Reach. And 3, asking 5 friends to do the same. So we need you to knock doors and make calls. It's old school, but it really works. Having one-on-one conversations with targeted voters is the most effective way, empirically, to win over undecideds and get out the vote. It always has been, it always will be, right? And voters see the enthusiasm that you bring on the phones and on the doors, and that translates to the effort that the campaign is doing to court and win their votes, right? Second thing is we need you to join Reach. And for that piece, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to turn this over momentarily to my colleague, Anna Christina.
Hello. All right. So I'm not quite as good as Allison, who's actually our resident expert, but I'm going to do my best to walk you through Reach. So, all right. So here's what Reach looks like. Reach is both an app that you can use on your phone, but also exists as a web page that you can use on your computer or tablet. We'll make sure and put the link for you as well as a campaign key for you in the chat once I'm done walking through this. But really, Reach was created to address sort of a fundamental thing that we've been told over and over again on campaigns, which is like, where do I get the soundbite talking point? Like, where do I get the little snippets of messaging? How do I make sure I'm on message? And the great thing about Reach is it's all right here for you. So there is a lovely library that you can look through by galleries, by sort of subject matters, and find materials related to whatever topic you are looking for, right? So let's say I want to know more about Project 2025 and how to message around it. And you will find a number of different things here on messaging about it, but also just as little talking points that you can post up. The great thing about Reach is that I can just click on this and I can download it and send it to all my social media networks, share it through here to folks directly. And I know the one thing that always is asked by the campaign is, if you actually do go forth and share it, can you let us know? There's always an option to give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you actually used a piece of content, so we know what kind of content to do more of, right? So that's the first piece of Reach, is that it has a lot of social media content and a lot of good messaging and sound bites to sort of simplify things down and distill them in a way that is very accessible to our friends and family and neighbors. There's also an action feed, which sort of has hey, what are we working on today? Obviously, Hispanic Heritage Month is coming up. So there's a Join the Latinos con Harris kickoff event in Osceola. You sort of see what the highlighted thing that we are focused on are. 60 days until we can say Madam President, right? So different sort of focal points. But you can also see our Mobilize events in the events section. So you can sign up for Mobilize events, as James was just talking about through here. The other piece I wanted to highlight, though, about Reach is the My Reach feature. So using My Reach or using the search, you can either import your contacts directly from your phone, or you can actually just go to search and you can look someone up. So I'm just going to look myself up here to give you an example, right? So let's say you're looking up your friends, your family, your neighbors, etc. So you're going to click on the person and you can actually mark them as a supporter or as not a supporter for us. This is huge for us because it's helping us clean up the list in the way that we do for phone banking, canvassing. All of these things are helping clean up our list so that we're talking to our supporters and not wasting our time with not supporters. You can do the same thing right through Reach for your immediate network and help us in that way. So I'm going to go ahead and stop screen sharing, pass everything back to James, and I'll put those links for you in the chat.
Thank you so much, Anna Christina. I appreciate that. Okay. So Marina, we'll get to your question in a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Everybody's on it. I appreciate how quick my colleagues are. Okay, so we're going to go back here to the presentation. Okay, everyone should be able to see it now. So we need you to invite your friends, right? We need you to invite them to events on Mobilize. Invite 5 friends, just like you came here today. That is the way that we will grow our networks outward and spiderweb a larger and larger and larger network of committed volunteers who are going to be recruiting more volunteers and talking to more voters and talking to more voters. Florida is an enormous and diverse state, and we don't have the benefit of a full year of campaigning. And I will be honest with everyone here. The reason we need you to invite friends is because Florida was not competitive under President Biden. Florida, thankfully, now is competitive. And I would rather have the good problem of too many people that are interested than not enough, right? But the way that we reach all of these people who are interested and who are moderates, who are considering whether they want to vote for Vice President Harris, because many of them don't know her yet. Many of them, maybe they know a little bit that she is the vice president, but that's about it. It is our opportunity to tell that positive story, but we can only get it to enough people if we can do it with enough volunteers just like you. So I'm going to switch now to how is it that we do that? And the answer is that we need to be as efficient and effective as possible with the technology tools that we have. So we're going to teach you now about what's called the dialer, right? This is our phone banking tool. So the Scale to Win dialer, this is the name of the company that provides it. It's a predictive auto dialer. Essentially, the computer does the dialing for you. It's much, much faster. Much, much faster. Remember when we were in the previous section trying to make a guess as to how many people all of us together here on this call could reach in 1 hour, right? The reason those numbers are big is because of this auto dialer. And we've made it easy to use. So many of us on this call have likely done multiple phone banks before for previous campaigns. And I certainly came up in an era when you had to manually get out a phone and dial individual numbers off of a paper sheet. And it was extremely time consuming. Most of the time you're going to get no answer, not at home, or some other thing, hung up, right? And this eliminates that entirely. So as I said, it's going to connect you just directly with voters. The computer does the dialing for you. But don't worry, your privacy is always connected. You can connect your phone, but your personal information is never shared with the caller on the other end of the line. So once you have the link, you can start calling every day. The dialer is open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. weekdays and 10 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. on the weekends. That being said, we'll have a number of phone banking shifts if you'd like to do it together with other supporters, one near your area, and we'll talk about that as we get farther along in the presentation. But again, the key points here are it's easy to use. It's just a website. With a link where you can share it with anyone. Anyone can make calls, even from outside the state of Florida. You don't need to download an app. You don't need extensive training. We're going to go over the basics here on the call so that you can also be trainers yourselves and train your 5 friends on how to do this. So you can scan right here with your phone if you want. We're also it's much easier to place a link in the chat. One of my colleagues is going to place a link in the chat. All you have to do is click on that and it'll open it on your computer. Furthermore, we're going to send you an email after this session is done, and it will include all the links that we talked about here today. So this is what it will look like. Let's say you click the link in the chat or you scanned that QR code. It's going to take you to this in your web browser. And this is the homepage of the Scale to Win auto dialer. And we highly recommend that you click this preview script first before you start dialing. So that will give you a sense before you're on the phone with voters of exactly what to expect. And it looks like this, right? Hi, my name is James, and I'm a volunteer with the Harris campaign. We're talking to voters about the upcoming presidential election. How are you doing today? And our first objective is to make sure that we're talking to the correct person, right? This dialer, in the same way that you might have done it previously on a paper sheet that would have like multiple things that you'd fill in a bubble or you'd circle them or whatever if you've done phone banks before, this is making it even easier. You just click through the sections and it will guide you through the various steps of what we would be asking for in a script rather than reading a long thing, right? So in the beginning here, and this is really important, we're just trying to make sure that we have the right person. That might seem basic, but it's really important because we are broadening the collection, the universe is the technical term, right, of voters that we're trying to reach out to. We are lucky that Vice President Harris brings in a larger potential set of voters for us than President Biden would have here in Florida. We want to capture as many as we can, but we still don't know because we are all short on time, right, exactly who our voters are. And we don't want to count people out. So we're going through this big list over and over and over of our target voters. And there's a lot of value in just doing the basics to make our list as sharp as possible, right? Making sure that we know it's the right person. Some of these things are going to be self-explanatory. If there's a language barrier, you can just click language barrier Spanish or language barrier other. Most of these other options of what you might get are pretty self-explanatory. The one that I want to highlight is you're not going to get like answering machine very often. The one that I want to highlight here is refused. If they hung up, there's a button for hung up. If they say, I don't want to talk about politics, that's fine. Then we can say, do not call, right? But this one here for refused, that means they're hostile. right? They're being rude to you, some other thing, right? Or they're a hardcore Trumper and, they just really don't want to talk. That's fine. You're not going to get very many people like that. It's pretty rare. But it can happen occasionally. And so we want to provide an option so that those people are going to be taken off the list in future passes right away. So here's the rest of the script, right? Let's assume that it is the right person that we're talking to. You don't have to say all of this because that feels kind of like a sales pitch. You know what I mean? This is a guide. Think of it as guardrails for you. And the best thing to do is to personalize it. Kind of let them know who you are. You know what I mean? Right away, quickly in one sentence, so that they know that you're not a person that's trying to sell them something. You're a person that is trying to listen to them and what their concerns are. I'm a volunteer with the Harris campaign, and I'm here because reproductive rights are incredibly important to me and they're under threat. Something like that, right? Whatever issue is important to you. And you want to ask them, what issues are front of mind for you in this election? What's important for you? To start that conversation that's two-way, because all the research shows that relational organizing, building a relationship one-on-one with a person, even if you just met them on the phone, is a much more likely scenario to be able to connect with that person and get good information from them, and perhaps convince them to come out and vote for Vice President Harris, right? So we listen, we acknowledge their response, we respond to their concerns a little bit, as you saw here in the previous slide, over here on the right-hand side of the panel. Let's imagine we were in the dialer now, you could scroll down and there would be more talking points on key issues there. Again, that's just for reference for you. We don't want you to speak off about a lot of different policy issues. We don't expect people to be policy experts. It's just a little something if you want to have something. The response that we generally recommend is for you to say, I know that's an important issue for a lot of people. Well, I can't speak to it myself. What I can tell you is this is why I'm here. This is really important to me. And then whatever issue is really important to you, honestly, the issue that brought you here, that is going to connect with people far more effectively, right? If it feels like it's a policy debate, that's usually not going to end well on a short call with someone that you don't know, right? So what you're really trying to get at is a little bit of a conversation just for, 30 seconds with somebody, and then you're trying to ask them, who are you planning on voting for president this year? And see what they say. And you'll know right away based on their tone, probably as soon as they answer, when you identify yourself as a volunteer with the Kamala Harris campaign, you'll know right away if they're excited and they're a strong Harris supporter. That's this first option right here. They're going to say something like, thank goodness you called. I've been waiting for somebody from the campaign. I can't wait to vote in November. I've already got my vote by mail ballot, whatever, right? You'll know right away. A likely Harris is like, yeah, I heard a little something about her. I don't really know, though. I think I might vote for her. There's still some unsureness, right? An undecided truly voter is, I don't know. It'll be straight up like that, Or I haven't thought about it really. And believe it or not, it's strange to people on this call. There's a lot of undecided voters in Florida, right? These are no party affiliate sometimes voters. It just depends. Could be undecided Democrats, could be undecided Republicans. We are really targeting the squishy middle. So you're going to get some strong Harris supporters, but you're going to get more that are in the middle because that's what's most valuable to us, finding other potential supporters now so that we're in a good position in October. If it's a likely Republican or a strong Republican, you just say, thank you so much for your time. And then you move on to the next call. There's no need to argue with them. They might say they don't want to vote. They might say I don't want to talk about politics. That's okay. It's still helping us. All those answers are helpful. Anything other than a hang up is helpful because we're gaining information about who we should go back to and talk to some more. So let's assume that they are a Harris supporter, right? Or even maybe, right? You can ask them, would you like to enroll and vote by mail? And this is important because a lot of people don't realize that even if you voted by mail in 2022, you're not automatically re-enrolled. The state requires you since 2022 to now to have re-enrolled to get your ballot in the mail. And a lot of people discovered how great vote by mail can be during COVID. I know that I'm a native Floridian, but I most recently lived in Oregon, where everybody votes by mail. And it's pretty great. And so it is a wonderful option for people. It's worth asking, do you plan to vote by mail, right? Are you enrolled? Did you know that you need to be re-enrolled? Just because you've done it before doesn't mean you're. So they might say they're enthusiastic. Oh, already enrolled. Great. They might say they don't care. I'm going to vote at the ballot box. Great. Also, if they're not sure, right, or if they'd like to be, it's a great opportunity right here. You can send them a text automatically. You don't have to put in anything. All you have to do is say send text and continue, right, if that's something they're interested in. If not, we just say skip. So assuming they're a supporter, and we've talked about the vote by mail, thank you for your support. We want to thank these people in the same way that I'm thanking you for being here today, right? It's also important that we're able to support Democrats up and down the ballot, right? We've got a great candidate in Debbie Mercoselle Powell, who's going to be running against Rick Scott. And almost nobody likes Rick Scott. It's amazing he got elected at all, right? He's just not a likable guy for a lot of reasons. And we can go into that, but this call's about Kamala Harris, and it's about supporting Democrats up and down the ballot. At the same time, if you've got a local candidate in your area that you're really passionate about, you can use them as an example too. This is just a statewide race that works for everyone, and it's an important Senate race at the same time. But again, it's important to elect Democrats up and down the ballot. We're working closely with Democratic leaders in your counties, all up and down and across Florida. And so, we want to emphasize up and down the ballot and see if they're going to do that. And if you want to use a local example that's important to you, feel free. So let's assuming they're continuing to support, they're really excited. You could tell right away from their tone of voice that they're going to be into this. We want to thank them again, right? And then we want to tell them about the stakes. We want to tell them why it's so important. We want to tell them that the race is very, very close across the country and that we are behind here in Florida. Although it's great to share that as of today, there was a great poll that came out from a Republican pollster that says we're only down by 3 points in this state. We can definitely make up 3 points with a good volunteer program. That is very possible. It's hard, but it's very doable if we all work. And so that's incredibly exciting to tell people. Florida is absolutely in play. And so, at the same time, if we don't turn out, Donald Trump is going to be taking our rights away. It's as simple as that. He's already did it before. He's talked about what he'll do again. You can bring up Project 2025. If the person is a strong Democrat, they've probably heard of that before, and all of the really awful things, a dystopian future that are contained within it. And we need to remind people of those stakes when we ask them to be volunteers as well. Can we count on you to get involved, right? That's the key phrase. Can we count on you to get involved? Yes, no, maybe. Any answer is good, right? Finding out more information, if they're still on the phone with you, is good. So great. I'll send you a text if you'd like to get involved, right? They say, sure, why not? Or maybe, anything like that, just go with it. Great. I'll text you a link to our daily volunteer orientation. That's this call right here. Where you can learn more about how to get involved in your area. Just click this button down here, send, text, and continue. And boom, they're going to get a link to mobilize, to sign up for this welcome call for any other day. And it'll probably be me that they'll be hearing from. So we're going back to the top now, right? We've gone through the whole script. That was the preview script piece here. There's multiple ways to use our auto dialer. We've tried to make it as convenient as possible. Again, you don't need to download an app. You can just follow the link, put it into your browser, and boom, there it is. You can do it on your phone. You can do it with your computer. Whatever's convenient for you. However, if you have the choice, I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend that you do both. This third option down here, this third blue box at the bottom, is call with this device and phone. It's going to be the easiest experience for you, for sure. So why is that? You'll just put your phone number in when you click that third box at the bottom there, and then you put your name in, and then it's going to automatically route all the calls through your phone so that your screen, your computer screen, is still up and in front of you, and that will show you all the information that you need, the script, the name of the person, where they live, all that sort of stuff, so you can click through the screens and it's nice and easy for you. So there'll be a number that appears on the screen. 786 number, I think last time I saw it, but it'll be some number. You call that number on your phone, right? And then just follow the instructions. You're going to get an automated thing that says, welcome to the auto dialer. And it's going to connect you with voters. And as soon as you're on that call on your actual phone or on your computer, right, you click this button right here, start calling. And again, calling from your computer or your tablet works best. with your phone. So this is what happens when you click get started, right? Start calling voters. You want to listen immediately for the soft beep and immediately start speaking. So think of the beep like a starter's pistol in a race. You got to go right to it. So the green bar up here at the top, right? This green bar says, boom, you've been connected to a voter. Before that, it'll appear gray. And what's happening on the other end is that the auto dialer is waiting for the person to actually answer. So they pick up the phone and they say, hello, and there's no response. And then a second or two later, it's connecting to you. So they're going to be like, hello, hello. And if they don't hear anything, they're just going to hang up the phone. So you got to be pretty quick, not immediately, but you got to be pretty quick, like within a second or so, or you just risk them thinking there's no one there and then they turn off because they've already said hello, right? I like to identify myself right away so they don't think that I'm a salesman, right? I like to say, hi, I'm James. I'm a volunteer with the Harris for President campaign. May I speak with Nikita? Right? So that I'm asking them if I can talk to them, right? So that they say yes. And I'm also discovering whether or not I'm talking to the correct person. Oh, no, she's not home right now. Or you have a wrong number. It can happen, right? Or maybe I'm busy right now, or whatever the case may be. But you're trying to make sure, again, that you have the right person and that you've told them right away, right? That you're not someone just trying to sell them something, that you are a volunteer and a real person and not a machine. And I feel like that lowers the temperature for a lot of people right away. Because we all get so many spam calls these days. You want to tell them right away, hey, I'm a person. I think that makes a big difference. So the script that you will see here mirrors exactly the script that we just went through in that preview section in the last few slides. So you're already going to know what's going to come up. So again, we have to emphasize this. As soon as you hear the beep and you see the green bar at the top, just go ahead and start talking. And once you do it a couple of times, it becomes pretty easy. During peak times, it's going to connect you very fast. If it's at a different kind of time when more people are at work or maybe they're at lunch or maybe it's early or late, it might take a minute or two, but the auto dialer will find the person for you, right? So this is where I have to say, over and over again, once again, thank you all for being here, right? Volunteers are our lifeblood. We cannot do it in a big, complicated, diverse, geographically dispersed state like Florida without you. You are the only way. We've got 40 staff for 40,000 volunteers. That's 1,000 volunteers per staffer. That's not enough. We have to be able to have your help. We're in this position because the switch from President Biden to Vice President Harris, against Donald Trump was relatively late in the game, right? But we'd rather be in the position that we're in now than before, right? Because we're competitive here now in Florida and we were not before. So this is a good problem to have, but we need your help. So I'm counting on you to put in the work, make phone calls, sign up for Canvas shifts. All of you are leaders, everyone on this call. I've got a little wooden box that I've had on my desk in every job that I've had since I worked on the 7 and 8 Obama campaign, right? It says, we are the change that we seek, right? We are the ones we've been waiting for. It's borrowing a quote from Gandhi, right? But it's the truth. We need to empower ourselves and each other to take ownership and responsibility if we want a better future here in Florida and an end to the era of President Trump's darkness, right? So that's why we're counting on all of you to be that for us. And with that, that concludes the formal portion of our presentation today. I want to spend the rest of the time answering questions. Any that you might have, feel free to put your questions in the chat like you have been, and one of our organizers will get back to you. Or if it's something more complicated, or if you just want to chat about something, feel free to raise your hand. There's a react button with a little heart down in the bottom. You click that and there's a raise hand option that comes up right above it. Raise your hand and I will unmute you and then we can chat. So Jose has a question. Go ahead and unmute Jose.
Good afternoon, everybody. Anyway, what I really I want to try to give a feedback to everybody that's going to be involved on this is I did 8 years for President Obama here in Tampa Bay, and I did it 24/7 because I have my own nonprofit organization. Then I can manipulate the time. Then I was able to do a lot of functions. Like I used to do a lot of parties in my house, bring 20, 25 people and getting motivated and talking, explaining them to help and everything. I used to get good results. But one of the things that is really important, nobody's talking about in the whole country, is that you have to mentally get ready before you jump in the phone. If you get 15 minutes and you start getting in a positive mood and you drink a bottle of water a half an hour before, yeah, by the time you get to the line and you start talking to strangers that you don't know how they're gonna react, you are ready, your body is on charge. That's what I call it. And everything goes better because people can feel you through the voice and the phone. And if you sound weak or you sound that you don't know what you're talking about, they're gonna hang up. Then I'm sure because it worked for me. I used to do my 15, 20 minutes, thinking positive, doing my prayer. I had God in first place. And by the time I was talking to these people, we used to talk for a long time, and they used to agree with me, because I have a lot of knowledge. President Obama, I learned everything about him, and we did a lot of movement here for President Obama. And I did it with Victoria Kirby. You should know her, James. If you are from Florida, Victoria Kirby. But that's what I have to say. And for this campaign, I'm going to go all the way 24/7, like I said, 24/7, and I'll be making phone calls. I'm going to have house parties. I'm going to have a group of people. We used to call them for President Obama, house parties, basically. And then do things. But right now we got only 60 days. And if you don't, this is really delicate. Thank God that I'm ready. But I'm just saying, get mentally prepared before you hit to that phone or do another kind of volunteering, But if you're going to get in the phone, it's really important because by law, really, it's illegal to ask somebody who you're going to vote for. Okay, the best of my knowledge is it's illegal to ask people who you're gonna vote for because I have people told me that. Then you gotta be prepared how you're gonna respond. Why are you asking who? Like people used to tell me, most Spanish people, they don't like that question. Who are you gonna vote for? Because in the culture, and the Latin culture is illegal because the communist countries and all these governments in these countries, but they are in the United States. I come from a Latin family, but I grew up in the United States. I've been here for 60 years, all my life. And but my main thing is, if you're gonna do a phone bank, get mentally prepared.
Yes.
Get confident. Don't you agree, James? You have experience because you said that you didn't. I'm sorry.
I could not agree more, Jose. It is important to get yourself in a good mental state of mind for positivity because the other person on the other end, gets a lot of information from your tone of voice. We are trying to inspire them. We all have strong feelings on this call about why we are here and what we would like to see happen in November, right? Yeah. We all, had very similar feelings about how it would make us feel to know that Vice President Harris was elected President of the United States in November. And so the person on the other end of the phone, they can hear your enthusiasm versus if you're not so sure, it makes a big difference to just assume the best intent on the other side and really try to stay as positive as possible throughout. It will make a real difference. I agree with you there. I do have to say one piece, like, yes, some voters, there's a bit of a correction there. Yes, some voters might not want to talk about who they plan on supporting, but there's nothing illegal about asking them who they plan on supporting, right? Some people might not respond positively to that question, and that's okay. It's their right to not disclose that if they don't want to, but we need to know. We do actually need to know who's going to be supporting where and who, in order to identify the voters that we want to really make sure we turn out in October, right? Right now, we're in the persuasion phase here in September, so we can be tight on who we're going to turn out in October and not go into the wrong people. That's why the dialer is so important. That's why phone banking is much more efficient than canvassing. Both are great, but for right now, that's why we're training you on how to use the dialer.
Okay.
I think Mitch is next.
I have a little feedback. Okay.
I want to give everybody a chance to speak.
Hello.
Will you let me finish? James, will you let me finish?
Sure.
Okay. What I want to say is I hope that the people will give more than 1 hour or 2 hours, in this next 60 days, only 60 days, then people should get really, really, really motivated and try to do the most that you can. Like you want, I'm gonna start as soon as we get done here. I got my computer here. I got because I do multiple. That's a thing that I want to see if you guys. So far, I've been following you, and when I did it with President Obama and for Charlie Crist, I used to have 2 phones or 3 phones. And then there was, like you say, it was in a piece of paper and you had a code and the numbers, there were someone.
Jose, how long were the calls usually?
Excuse me, sir?
How long were the calls usually?
It depends how you talk to them. Some people they will like to hear what I have to say because I will try to give them information that they didn't know.
Right.
Like more with Obama. With Obama, people that they don't even know how to pronounce the name Barack. But if you have a lot of information, that's how long it's gonna be your conversation, but your goal is to have that person vote for President Harris.
Right.
No matter how long it takes, but the main point is that you have to be prepared mentally and knowledge about who you're talking about. Because on the other side, it could be a senator, or you never know who's on the other side.
Yeah, I need to learn more about like the policies, so when people ask me, I know how to respond.
Mitch, as we talked about during the presentation, there are, if you scroll down on the preview script piece, right before you start making the call. Yes, the topics on the right-hand side. If you scroll, there's a bunch more on there. And of course, you can go to Kamala Harris's website. But at the same time, or you can honestly just Google Kamala Harris position on whatever policy, and there'll be a news article about it for sure. But truthfully, you don't need to be a policy expert on a bunch of different issues, right? And that's usually not what convinces people. I mean, some people are single issue voters, and that's really important to them. But we find that what is most effective is connecting on values with people and telling your own story. Think about having, as Jose is talking about being in the right frame of mind, think about having an elevator pitch for yourself. Like, honestly, why are you on this call today? What's most important to you? What about your personal story brought you to be more politically involved and why you want to volunteer, right? And telling that to a person, like person to person, especially on canvassing, on the doors, is really effective, and it's disarming. Instead of it feeling like a cable news debate about policy issues, it feels more like talking to a neighbor. And that's what we're looking for, right? That's how we want to be able to connect, because that's mostly what you'll be doing, calling and talking to your neighbors in your own communities.
I think like going door to door would be most effective. But like About how many hours a week do we need to be?
So it's up to you. It's up to you. We would love to have you for as much time as we can. We would ask you to commit to doing something every week from now until the election. For most people, that means I want to sign up for a phone banking shift or a Canvas shift at some point every weekend from now until the rest of the campaign. For some people who really like it and they want to get more involved, there's a separate training where we can teach you to be a captain, where you can set up your own phone banks, your own canvases. It sounds like, Jose, maybe that's something that's better for you since you have more experience, right? But for now, we're going to start with this, right? Jose, if you email me, I put my email in the chat earlier, jfay@2024victory.com. I can put it down here again. If you email me and tell me what part of Florida you're in, we can get you hooked up with the right organizer. In your area, you can be a captain. But to get back to Mitch's question, it's really up to you. We'd love to have you for as much time as you can give. If you'd like to be in an in-person phone bank, depending on where you are, hopefully we can get one that's already existing, that's in your area. If not, we can create one, right? Some people would rather go talk to people on the doors. For some of our organizers that are a little bit younger, like yourself, right? Like some of our seniors have a hard time canvassing in the hot, Florida summers for hours on end. And so I try to get out on the doors as much as I possibly can and just go talk to people, It's a really effective way to be able to communicate with the voters that we need. And I do think you have a higher contact rate, right? Like you might only talk to, the auto dialer is going to do the dialing for you, but you might only, contact 1 out of 10, or maybe if it's a bad time, 1 out of 20 people that you're calling, you actually get on the phone and talk to them. On the doors, it's like a quarter or a third of the people on the weekends are going to answer the door. So it's really up to you and what kind of involvement that you want to have. We're asking everybody to think about what you can do and then try to bump that up a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what should I be wearing when I knock on the doors?
Right. If you've got a Kamala Harris, T-shirt, that's always great. But
I have a Biden Harris one.
That works great too. That
Okay.
works great too.
Okay.
Like if you got something like that, I think it helps to show right away, like who you are and that you're not there to like sell them something. You know what I mean?
Right.
But really anything that's comfortable and authentic to you is fine. You don't have to have campaign merch. We of course like that, but it's not required.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, can I mention something too about try to attract the media in your community? The media, they would come like I already told my secretary to make me an appointment with the office of Marco Rubio. Then I'm gonna go over there with a group of people and talk. I invite the media. I'm talking because I have experience.
I understand, Jose. We do have a robust media team here that works at campaign headquarters, and I do promise you they are working on that, including outreach to Latino media. So I have to move on to other folks. I really appreciate your involvement. I think you should attend the captain's training. You can find it on Mobilize. We've got other folks here that have their hands up, and I want to make sure I am equitable and get to everyone. So Sabrina, I see you up next. Sabrina, can you unmute? Okay, Claire King, I think. Can you please unmute?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I had just a couple very quick questions, I think. I did phone bank training yesterday and it was really pretty good. And the gal did a bunch of sample calls, but none of them, I'm the generation that is always worried about being polite. So if you get somebody that is not some crazy person yelling at you, but somebody that just says, no, I'm a Trump supporter, I'm going to vote for him, how do you suggest closing off that call? Thank you for your time, or?
Yes. So it depends on how strongly. Every now and then we are able to connect with people who are like, I don't know, I'm probably going to vote for Trump. But maybe not, I don't know yet. Somebody like that, they're like, they say Trump, but they sound a little iffy. Ask them about what's important to him, right? Ask them specifically what makes you say that? Like, what issues are most important to you? And they might say something, because again, a lot of Trump supporters that watch Fox News, they have a lot of misinformation in their heads. And I'm not suggesting getting into a debate with someone, that doesn't really work, but they may be just unaware of something. You know what I mean? And that can make a big difference. And so what I'm suggesting is that there's an opportunity to have a conversation with somebody there and see what their values are about. But if they say they're a strong Trump supporter, yeah, don't waste your time. Just say thank you very much and move on to the next and mark them as a Trump supporter. And again, like, it's unclear sometimes how those people get in there, you know, they could have changed their mind. Voters are complicated. You know, the average person is complicated. And there's a number of reasons why people might support somebody versus somebody else. But what I would say is that you want to be able to have that conversation in a way that's authentic to you and in a way that's also polite and reflects well for the campaign. So, you know, you're not going to get a lot of strong Trump supporters, but if you do, marketing them that way is helpful for us. That helps us to clean the lists, to make it more specific, such that we are able to know who are our better targets to support in October when we're doing get out the vote operations. So again, it's just about the tone. You can read it. You can make your best common sense judgment on whether or not it's worth it trying to talk to them. In general, you know, most people are more open-minded than you might think. And our universe of voters, for the most part, that we're targeting right now, they're the mushy middle. You know, again, you might get a Trump supporter, but it's mostly people that are undecided. They're really not into politics. I'm not sure. Heard something on the news about that, but I don't really know. You're going to get a lot of that, you know, and those are the people that we really want to reach out to, because we can bring them in, because I genuinely believe that the average person is sick of Trump's shtick at this point. It's all about him. It's all about negativity and grievance. And we want to talk to them about how Kamala Harris's campaign is about positivity, right? A lot of people don't know that much about her yet. And so we want to bring that information to them. We want to help them tell her positive story. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, that helps. One other quick thing. The Reach app for your phone, I'm confused about that. Can we find it in the App Store? Or?
Yes, you can. You can find it in the App Store. And here, let me open it up on my phone right now. So it looks like this. It's this little blue one right there. You see it? Right there. And it'll look, when you open it up, it'll look like that.
Okay. And I mean, I have an iPhone, so I just go into the App Store and type in Reach.
Type in Reach, and it'll be a blue logo. Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. There's a code that's helpful to use for Reach. I believe that Christina posted it recently here in the chat. Max, if you could put it down towards the bottom again, that'd be wonderful. But yes, let's move on to our next.
Hello, James. Hello.
Nice.
Hi, I'm sorry. I just figured out how to unmute. I just had a question. When we're using the phone bank, will my cell phone number be visible?
No, it will not.
Okay, thanks.
No worries. Your privacy is always protected. It will show like a random Florida number.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know exactly where in Florida, but it'll be a Florida number from somewhere that's auto-generated.
Okay, thanks.
And that's because the dialer right now is statewide, right? Later on in October, you'll be making calls just to your county, but